Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, welcome. Today I'm going to be telling you 10 facts or things that support workers slash carers do not tell you about the job. So without further ado, let's get into it. So I'm going to be telling you 10 things that support workers slash carers don't tell you about their job. This is coming from my almost 3 years experience working in both an elderly care home and a care home for special needs young adults. And yeah, I'm going to tell you some juicy things. So let's start with number one. There are way more bodily fluids than you expect. In care homes, yeah, you expect to obviously be helping people to the toilet. There are sometimes accidents. No. I probably was covered in all sorts of bodily fluids more than once a shift. There was an occasion where someone literally weed in my glove. Yeah. Not going to go into details about how that happened, but I had my fancy gloves on and my entire glove was full of urine. So yeah, you think you're up for the job and you don't mind a bit of sick or a bit of poo, some blood. No. What they don't tell you about the job is you will come out covered in some form of fluid from a person at some point during that shift. Sometimes you're lucky and it's just a bit of phlegm or snot. Other times not so lucky. I have literally had my dress stained brown before. Yeah, so that is number one. Told you it'd get juicy. Number two is the pay is shit. For what we do as carers slash support workers, you do not get paid enough. I think the highest paid I ever was £8.20, and yes, I know to some of you being newly out of school, £8.20 seems like a really good pay, but considering in one of my care work experiences, you were literally sustaining the life of people on a day-to-day basis. £8.20 is not enough. From obviously experience, I now work at Sainsbury's, not by choice. I've just had my pay bumped up to £9.20. I'm earning £1 more to sit behind a till than to care for vulnerable people. Just gonna let you think about that for a minute. Number three is you get emotionally attached. People say you don't, and those that don't get emotionally attached to their patients or residents are either liars or completely heartless and shouldn't be in the industry. Both times I've worked in care, you just fall in love with them because they are basically your second family. You go to work and you spend 90% of your day with these people and 90% of their day is spent with you. They become emotionally attached, you become emotionally attached. So when unfortunately things do happen, i.e. they get admitted to hospital for an illness or in elderly care homes, they die. It is sad. Like, I had 6 people die whilst in my first care job, and some of them I was okay with. I was obviously sad, but there was others that, there was a guy who, when I first came from my work experience, he was the first person I ever met, and I got to help him with his dinner, and he was the person that actually convinced me that caring wasn't all bad and I actually wanted to make a difference in people's lives. And yeah, he died whilst I was at work and I booed for 3 days. So yeah, when people say you don't get emotionally attached or try not to get emotionally attached, it's impossible unless you're a heartless human being. Then don't work in care. Number 4 is you end up with favourites. Again, people say you shouldn't have favourites, it's the same as teaching, you shouldn't have favourites. Let's cut to the chase, you have favourites. Everyone has favourites. I had my favourites both in my elderly care home and the one with sort of special needs, end of life young adults. Everyone has their favourites, just like everyone has their least favourites. For example, in my first job, there was a woman that lived on the 3rd floor. She hated me. She never let me help her. She screamed at me, she shouted at me, all because she was scared that I'd do something wrong because I seemed so young. She was scared of my inexperience, which, that is fine. No need to be a dick about it though. So she was not one of my favourites. However, there were other ones that Even if I wasn't allocated to them that day, before I left or when I first started, I'd always go downstairs or upstairs, wherever they were, pop my head round the door, say hello to them, ask them if they needed a cup of tea, and just ask them how their day's been if I haven't seen them in a few days. So yeah, it happened in my second care job as well. You have favourites, okay? So don't lie to yourself. Number 5 is you become an expert in all mental conditions or physical conditions that you work in. The first job I worked in, like I said, was an elderly care home, and I was specialised in the secure unit that specialised in dementia and Alzheimer's care, which meant me and one colleague were responsible for 9 individuals that had really severe cases of dementia or Alzheimer's, which meant that they could not be mingled with the other 40 residents in the main building. They had a coded door, they ate dinners separately from everybody else. It was having like a separate house inside the home. Because obviously I was quite young, I didn't quite understand the workings of dementia, but during my college life I did actually specialise on a dementia project that I did. Actually got a distinction star in it, not bragging, but I did a piece where we could choose what kind of illness to do, and I chose to do dementia, and I now consider myself, I wouldn't say an expert, but for the general person I'd say I'm pretty well informed about the different forms of dementia and Alzheimer's and how they can manifest in different people depending on their personalities, all because of where I used to work. Just like in my second job, I worked in a place that was licensed under the company Seeability, and that specialised in, well, it specialises in special needs young adults and blind people, because it used to be called the Royal School of the Blind, but the section that I worked in specialised in individuals suffering from Batten's disease. When I first started, I had no idea what Batten's disease was. I had no idea the inner workings of the disease, but now I do. So if you want a separate video on my experiences with Batten's disease, then I'm more than happy to do one, because it is actually really, really interesting. So stay tuned. The next one is you walk a lot. I cannot tell you how many pairs of shoes I went through, to the point where I got myself a pedometer from Poundland, because I was convincing myself I was walking miles a day and no one really believed me. In my first job, I averaged out at about 18,500 steps in a 6-hour shift. In my second job, as much as it was a smaller home because it was only for 16 people rather than 40 odd, it was a larger space for such a small amount of people, and we did go on day trips out as well, so I was averaging out at about 20,000 steps a day. So many steps, just, it was too much. My feet would physically hurt and ache. It was like I had a headache in my feet every time I came home from work. I bought Skechers memory foam. They lasted 6 months. I bought those special nurses shoes. They lasted 8 months. These shoes, you'll just go through shoes like water. So I ended up just buying cheap ones that had cheap memory foam in them, because if I'm going to be shelling out for a new pair of shoes every 6 months for work, I might as well get cheap ones rather than paying £60 a pop every time my soles wear out, because even though you walk on carpet, they just wear. And when you go in showers and you go in wet rooms to help people with their showers, they get wet, the stitching goes, you just walk and you just go through shoes. Just, it's an expensive part of your job, okay? Number 7 is it puts your life into a vast perspective. I would say I complained quite a lot before working in care. Just the smallest things that would happen in my day, like it would start raining and I didn't have a jacket. That would put me in a bad mood for the rest of the day. Or I opened the fridge in the morning and someone had had the last of the milk, so I couldn't have my cereal or my coffee. That would be me done for the day. I would have had enough at that point already. I wouldn't want to socialise with people just because it would put me in a bad mood. However, once I started working in care, I realised how difficult some people's lives can be and how reliant upon me just to get through their everyday life. Like, some people couldn't actually eat without my help. Some people wanted to live their lives and go out exploring. They wanted to go to the shops every day. They wanted to go Christmas shopping like a regular teenager. And they couldn't do that unless I was there with my teammates to help them. And I kind of sat back one day and I thought, well, this makes my life look pretty pathetic. I'm sat here complaining that I don't have milk in the fridge, and yet there are people that I care for that are literally going to die by the age of 25, and they're not complaining. So yeah, it does put a vast perspective on what you complain about in your life, because it makes things seem so irrational and so petty when you're caring for people that don't have long to live and are living with horrible conditions. So yeah. Number 8 is one for the elderly care homes, if you ever work in one. Don't trust lavender bags. Just don't do it. If you ever see a little old lady or a little old man, mostly ladies, in a wheelchair and they're from a care home, 9 times out of 10, those gals will be rocking them lavender bags on the back of their wheelchairs. It's not because it's a nice little ornament or it's a personalisation of their wheelchairs or to know which one is theirs. Lavender masks the smell of urine. The same as Olbas. You know that granny smell that everyone's nan seems to have if they're over the age of about 80? Yeah, it's lavender and Olbas, because they are the 2 things that mask the smell of urine. So yeah, you see a lavender bag, be wary. Number 9 is you can basically wave goodbye to your social life. It's a little bit like if you work in a hospital, you can't not work. Even the times when I knew I had a day off, if I had a message saying, can you come in for an extra shift? I'd say yes. It's again linked to the emotional attachment of the people you work for. If you get a text saying, oh, so-and-so's had to be rushed to hospital and one of your colleagues has had to go with them, we need an extra pair of hands, do you mind coming in? You say yes, because you are then worried about who's gone to hospital and you want to make sure everybody else is safe. So yeah, there was at one point, which was really disgusting, when I was working 18 hours at Sainsbury's. This was when I was about 16, 17. I was working 18 hours at Sainsbury's. I was at college full time, and I was working at my first care home 4 nights a week. Some days I would do split shifts, mostly on, I think it was Tuesdays and Saturdays. Tuesdays I didn't really have college, so I did a 2 till 6 or something similar at Sainsbury's, and then I would do a 6 till 10:30 at the care home. Just like Saturdays, I would do a 10 till 2 at Sainsbury's, and then I'd end up doing, I think, a 2:30 till 10:30. I basically didn't see anyone. Everyone thought I'd just died or rolled off the face of the earth because I basically stopped existing. I rocked up to college, probably still half in my pyjamas, hair not brushed for 6 days. I'd turn up to work, sometimes in the wrong uniform. It killed me. I did this for almost 8 months and it honestly killed me. And to be perfectly honest, because I was on sort of an apprentice wage at my care home and Sainsbury's was under 18 pay, and also not including the secondary job tax, I was not getting paid a lot, and yet I still had no social life because I wanted to work. So yeah. You want to work in care, guys, or you already do, you can empathise. You have no social life. And if you do, please tell me how you manage your time, because the only spare time I had from work, I used it to sleep. And number 10 is once a support worker or carer, always a support worker or carer. It is something that is just, once you join the care industry, it does not leave you. It is in your blood for life. I haven't worked in care now since May. As much as that is a short period of time, for some people it feels like it's been about 10 years. But even to this day, if I see a little old lady in Sainsbury's and she's struggling to walk, I have to go and help her. Just like if I see daughters or sons pushing their elderly mother or father around in a wheelchair and they're struggling with their foot plates, I will have to go and adjust them for her. I've seen elderly people have accidents with trolleys at Sainsbury's. There was a woman that cut her knuckle open and didn't tell them that they were a haemophiliac? Yeah, haemophiliac. And yeah, she failed to tell our first aider at work, but she was actually wheelchair bound, and even just the way she was being treated, it wasn't abusive in any way by the manager that was dealing with her. Her wheelchair wasn't turned around so she could see what the manager was doing. She wasn't being spoken to at all times to make sure she was calm and was comfortable and wasn't panicking. Just, I wanted to get involved and I wasn't even at work, I was just waiting in line. But yeah, if you ever go into care, even if it's for 6 months, 6 years, 60 years, once you join the care industry, you will never leave it in your mind. So yeah, I have a caring side, believe it or not, guys. Thank you guys again for watching. If you'd like to see more of me, please hit that subscribe button down below. If you'd like more 10 things that workers don't tell you videos, then leave me a comment or a like down below as well, and I will see you in the next video.